The Guidelines for Better Legal Information are a list of tips from Clio about how to write great legal information for a public audience. If your organization produces websites, pamphlets, fact sheets, or other written legal information, you want to make sure that you're conveying that information in the best way possible for your communities. We created this video to introduce the guidelines, which we hope are going to help you in your work. When you're drafting legal information or working on a new resource, before you publish, ask yourself the following questions. First, does it say who produced it? Users will trust the information if they recognize and trust the organization behind it. If you don't think your typical reader already knows about you, include some extra details, about being a nonprofit, for example, or about your staff's expertise to help establish credibility. On a website, you can include this information in your About page. Here's a good example from settlement.org. It has background info and some details about major partnerships. They've made it really easy to see that this website is legitimate. Second, have you said who this information was written for or how people might use it? The most useful legal information sheets are tailored to a particular audience or for a specific purpose, and saying this right at the start makes it easy for people to tell whether this information applies to them. It also reduces the chance that someone will act on this information when they shouldn't. Third, does it say where it applies? Especially for online information, people can land on your page from all over the world if you appear in their search results, so say where it applies and put it somewhere easy to see, like in the title or description. You can always just include a line that says, "This information applies in Ontario, Canada." Fourth, is your information legally accurate? Get the information reviewed by a legal expert. You should pick someone who has on-the-ground experience with the legal topic, so they have practical knowledge of how things work. If you don't have access to a helpful lawyer, there may be a paralegal or a community legal worker with the appropriate expertise depending on the subject. Fifth, is there a date on it? This goes hand in hand with tip number 4. We call the last date that your information was legally reviewed the legal currency date. Put that somewhere prominent to help your reader feel confident that the information is still good. Even if the law hasn't changed, you should check it and redate it every year or two so your reader knows that it's been reviewed recently, even if it's an older resource. Number 6. Is the information easy to understand? As much as possible, try to use plain language techniques like simple words, short sentences, and so on. Sometimes you need to introduce legal terms because your reader will need to know them. In those cases, just make sure you explain what they mean. There are a lot of resources on plain language writing available in Clio's Better Legal Information Handbook and our PLE Toolbox, especially Module 2 on developing content. We'll post links to these resources at the end of this video. To complement your plain language, make sure you use a clean design so that your text is easy to read. Even if you don't have access to a designer, there's some simple things you can do. This is a good example from Clio's Do You Know a Woman Who Is Being Abused handbook. Use frequent subheadings to separate your content into sections. Space out your content so there's lots of white space. Use bulleted lists instead of long paragraphs. Select fonts and colors that are easy to read. Avoid using light text on a dark background. Use text boxes to make important information stand out. And make sure your lines aren't too long. This paragraph's only about 50 characters wide. Finally, number 8. Have you included referrals to free or low-cost legal services? For many people, this is the most helpful information on the page. Make sure you refer to legal services that are likely to be a good fit for your particular reader. And if you aren't sure what to say, Steps to Justice is a website that Clio maintains with tons of plain language legal information. This particular page answers the question of where to get legal help if you can't afford a lawyer. Clio keeps this page up to date, so you can always send people here. And those are the guidelines for better legal information. Please share this video if you found it helpful or leave a comment for us below. For more information, check out the PLE Learning Exchange where we post articles, how-to guides, and resources, including a poster version of these guidelines, which you can download and share for free.